Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri, and welcome to episode 134 of We the GamerCast. Comes to you on iTunes and Google Play and Mother Lovin' YouTube every single Monday. Thank you for subscribing and being here this whole time. Many of you have been here for a long time. Some of you, maybe this is your first time, and if that's the case, if you're new, here's the deal. Every week, I have sweet hangs with a stranger from the internet, and if you... Yes, if you want to be on the show, it's easy. Just tweet at me, Sean Capri, Sean like Connor, Capri like the pants. That was faster and more energetic than I thought I had in me. I'm a sweaty mess right now. If you're watching the video, there's not even glasses. The hair's not even done. Like, I feel like garbage. Yesterday, I had an amazing chat with Donnie Reece, and we'll get to him in a second. And a few hours later, I took the dogs for a walk, took Lincoln out. We had some fresh air, and just in the middle of that walk, just something hit me. I feel like crap, guys. I wanted to play some Gears of War last night, and I didn't. I just kind of like wrapped myself up in a blanket. I played Bloodborne. I don't know. It was more of a solo type of night last night. Chelsea streamed, by the way. If you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Chelsea is streaming Fallout 4, and it is amazing because she has like thousands of hours or something in that game, and the level that she's at is insane. So if you guys want to check that out, her and I have been sort of like swapping nights, it seems, so hopefully we can keep that up. And thank you to everybody for stopping by. I know Dude has been by, Lens, you've been there, so many others. Lohr was there last night. But before we get any further, why don't we go ahead and the reason this is on video, the reason you're seeing all this face on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/WeTheNerdy, is because of our patrons. Patreon.com/MakeUsBetter, especially our platinum executive producer, my man, Corey Hicks, our gentleman executive producers, Nick Milicia from Next Level Games, Joel Brooks, James Johnson, Dr. Doom, Jesse Armstrong, David Ray, Aaron Doherty, Martini Jean, and Mr. Moody himself. Thank you guys. You are supporting a wide breadth of content, but we'll leave that maybe for the end of all the different things you're supporting at Make Us Better. I don't have a whole lot of time with you this morning, mainly because Donnie and I go on, and I promise you, this is one of those special episodes you guys are not going to want to skip, and there's no spoilers for anything. I don't know. There's been a lot of podcasts I've been listening to that are dealing with spoilers. I'm like, skip ahead 10 minutes. I don't know what my thoughts are on that. It's not even a bad thing. I just thought I would bring it up. Good. Did I mention that I'm not feeling so great? I just wanted to mention just a quick recap on playing Gears 4 with Luke Lohr, Alex Van Aken, Johnny Casino, Chris Berto, so many other people. Hopefully Mitch Power can jump in on this. Guys, if you have an Xbox and if you have Game Pass, you have Gears of War 4. And I know this is like 2 years later, but this game's making a comeback. I'm telling you guys, it's a good time. And if you guys, any multiplayer stuff, I feel like that is kind of taking over lately. A lot of multiplayer stuff. The Division is coming back. Halo making a comeback. Hit me up, guys. I'm up for some, other than last night, and probably, I'm literally like sweating as I'm getting through this intro. I don't know what's wrong. Hit me up. Let's play some multiplayer games. Join the Discord. The link is in the show notes. So let's get going. Why don't we actually get on with the show? Speaking of let's get going, my guest, like I said, is Donnie Reece. This is, man, I've known Donnie since before I was doing this show, man. Play some video games. I wanted to get into how it has changed and a little bit of his backstory as well. I know he's been on the Delvin Cox show and a few others talking a little bit about his upbringing and stuff. I wanted to get into that with him today from maybe a slightly different angle. So why don't we go ahead and do it? Here's Donnie Reece. Follow him on Twitter at Playin' Nintendo. It's like playing without the G. Ain't no G's in playing Nintendo, and you can see all of his amazing content and the stuff that his team is working on at playsomevideogames.com. Here he is, Donnie Reece.
So like with PSVG, like I have like management team, and it's like really it's like me and Kevin. But even then, like the folks that have been there since the beginning, it's like, you know, Nathan, Kyle, and Jason, like I also like bounce things off of them. But I mean, ultimately, it's always my call, and ultimately, I always get Kevin's input because Kevin is kind of like my right hand guy. And I would say that I'm always open to suggestion as long as it makes sense. You know, like I don't want to just, the thing that I don't like want to just cater to any I'd say feedback, but like any criticism. Like the moment I hear criticism, I don't go, oh, we have to change everything. You know, like it took a long time for me to realize I'm like, you know what? Some people may just not like it, and that's okay. Like we don't have to change everything that we do for like the one thing. But when changes come along, so like God, I've swapped our website out like 10 times, and like we've actually had the website that we currently have for like a good year plus, and I think it's good. Like we're gonna keep it the way it is. But for the longest time, I would always do like, you know, if I thought something was better, you know, like the way we record stuff, that's changed and ebbed and flowed, and it's always been, you know, or like even actually the most recent example is for a while Kevin was doing all the editing, and one day he just came to me and he was like, I can't do this anymore, I need to take a step back. And I was like, all you had to do was say the word, because it was one of those things where he was doing it and I was fine with it because he didn't, you know, he never said it was a problem. And then one day he was like, this is just too much. And I'm like, well, we're going to fix this. And he's like, how? I'm like, we're going to make everybody do it. He's like, this is never going to happen. It's like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen right now. But I am more like the blunt force trauma type. Whereas when I decide to do something, that's it. This is what we're doing, and we're doing it right now. Like, I don't have like this long, you know, methodical plan to like you know, to ease into it. No, we're
what
just
has
going to
that
do it.
allowed you to do, you think? Like, kind of talk me through, because I feel like you've talked about the origins of PSVG probably 1,000 times, and people who are listening to this have heard you probably say that, you know, before, and if not, we can refer them to those shows where you do. But like, I am curious because I've watched the growth and the metamorphosis of PSVG over the years, and I'm curious, like, from your perspective, like, how has that been, and how has the team grown and changed, and maybe how has your vision changed since the beginning of PSVG? Yeah,
vision's definitely changed for sure. Like, that vision idea is definitely, like, when I started PSVG, I'll try to give you the condensed version. When I started PSVG,
everybody sit down,
okay,
grab a drink, pet your dog or cat. We're going down story time.
When I started PSVG, you know, I used to write in the forums. That's how you and I met, and that's how basically everybody that like I know on Twitter met me. I used to write in the MTG forums, and I used to write like, I guess I built a reputation for having like extremely like long form.
I guess I did.
Like I would wait a week and get like all of the criticism from everybody, and then just reply to everybody in like one gigantic thing. So I actually used to always write like that. So when I started PSVG, like writing was a focus. Like I always wanted to write. When I started PSVG, I always wanted to fanboy out. Like that was kind of the idea. Is I didn't want like, we're all gamers, everybody's okay. Like I like wanted passionate people. Like no. Like you think PlayStation's the best. Yeah. I want to hear why. Like state case. So like it was always kind of the idea was always kind of like I wanted to capture like some of that confrontation. You know, like in a responsible way, but like that's kind of what we wanted. And so when I started inviting people, like those are the people I started to try and latch onto, started to recruit, started to bring into the fold. And oh God, it blew up. It completely went in a complete opposite, utter direction than anything we ever thought. Like at first, there was just 4 of us, and we were going to podcast every week. But then like a couple guys got sick, and a couple people had like, you know, like family. And I was like, man, like we need more people. That's the thing I always tell Gabe. Is like I give them so much props that they're there all 4 every week, forever, like week in, week out. It's so that's really hard.
That's why I do this by myself.
It's really hard.
For real, that's the reason the show is built the way that it is, because there's 10 episodes of We the GamerCast that were built like that, and like different people every single week, and we're like, no. Yes.
I can't. Life comes up, job comes up. Yeah. Exactly. So I was telling Kevin, I was like, we need more people, like just to kind of like be able to tap on shoulders when we needed to. So we brought in a couple more, and then it got to the point where it's like, well, now people can only podcast every 6 weeks and they want to podcast more. So I was like, oh, well, then we need another show. So then we like start like doing like dual shows or more shows. Instead of dual shows, we start having more shows for special events, shows for things like different sets of people. And then we started doing that. Then it turned. Instead of me having to go find people, people started to come. And like people like, I love what you do. I've always wanted to do it. Can I join? And a big part of me wanting to do PSVG was wanting to have a voice, or I don't even say have a voice, but like just wanting to have an opinion or say things. You know, it's just when you're such a big fan of a community like Married to the Games or Podcast Beyond, like there's oftentimes, I know with me with Married to the Games, there was all kinds of famous, infamous times that I disagreed or said something, you know, in the forums with the host, and like I wanted to say it. I would like, man, I wish I could be there and just talk to them. So when people started to come to me with the same thing, I felt bad turning them away. You know, it was like I became a hypocrite. I was like, I know how that feels. I wanted to do the same thing, so I started bringing in more people, and then we had. At one point, I think we had like an 11-week podcast.
Oh, just so that you could finally get on to the flagship show.
Yeah. And a big part of it was expenses and money. You know, we were on. Oh, I can't even remember what it was now. What's the big podcast
like SoundCloud
site? Like the big one, Libsyn.
Oh, Libsyn. Yeah, we were there. I was like at the very, very beginning. We were there too.
So when I started everything, like I started a website, started a blog, and I was like, what's the best? And Libsyn like came back most at the time, you know, 3-4 years ago, Libsyn was the best, or at least according to the folks that I looked at. But they used to charge for space, right? So like you paid for space and podcast audio space. So like it became an issue where I was like, we're constantly running out of space. And I think when we started, you were at like the lowest tier. I don't know, it's like 10, 15, $20 a month. And then at one point we were at like $90 a month in like space allowed. And I was like, just isn't working. So we started trying to find another place. And when we found our new host, we're no longer capped by space. Then I was like, all right, because here's the thing. We brought people on to write. Here's an interesting thing. Nobody wants to write anymore.
Oh, dude, trust
nobody
me.
wants to write.
WeTheNerdy.com. Who's signing up to write there? Everybody wants to podcast right now.
Exactly. Everybody wants to podcast. So like we would bring somebody on, and undoubtedly they'd all start by going, I'd love to write. And they'll write 5 articles out of the gate, and then it'll just slow down, and then it just became nothing. And I was like, so I remember like we Kevin and I would have like these long discussions after the show. I'm like, dude, we gotta do something. Like nobody wants to write. Nobody even like review. Like we get free review codes, and like they don't even want to review. Like it became pretty obvious to me that like what people want to do is they want to play their favorite games, not review games.
Oh man, let's talk about this for a second. Okay,
so
this is something that people discover, I think, pretty quickly. Maybe they're in denial for a short little while of time, but when you're first getting into reviewing games, and even reviewing games on an ongoing basis, guess what, folks? Mario Odyssey doesn't come out every week. Zelda doesn't come out every week. Guess what fills in? And guess what codes are plentiful? The games you'd never heard of
the games
before.
That people aren't playing.
So that's great. So that discourages people, I think, pretty quickly as well from.
Because it feels like a grind. God. You're playing a game you don't want to play. You're not playing a game that you want to play, right? And then you have to write about it or record it. And like exactly. It becomes like this task.
I mean, ultimately, it is the best way to go about it because you get to have practice with all these games that are lower profile. Like if you're gonna mess up a review, do it on one of the dozen games that comes out on Switch every single week, rather than the big Far Cry 5 review or whatever like that. Like I think back to some of my reviews, I probably like way overscored some games, probably underscored other games, but like nobody knows about those games. Like
it's interesting you bring that up because I think anybody that's ever reviewed games knows that plight, because you get like there's a part of you that gets excited when you first start, but then there's also just like getting reps. You do it a dozen, 2 dozen, 5 dozen, 100 times. I think you become more critical. It's almost like it wears you. Like when you start playing that many games, now you become really critical of games.
And everything.
When you first start, I don't think you
and
have
movies and everything like that. And
the news, microtransactions, all that stuff, you become super critical.
And you kind of have like a knee-jerk reaction. And I honestly believe, Donnie, like, and I've taken a bit of a break from writing. And speaking of nobody wants to write, I feel like there's like a sweet spot just after you start where that's actually your best writing. Like you're going to be awful. You don't know how to start a review. I'm sure there's a Call of Duty review somewhere that I did where I compared it to like to I don't even know. I had some awful analogy at the beginning, and it was like a paragraph. It was brutal, but I put it out there, and I became very sensitive to how do you start a review? Like, how do you tell somebody about the game and make it exciting and make it so that somebody wants to read the rest of it? But then after a while, then you start to become a little bit formulaic because you've been responding to the things you don't like in your reviews. Then you're like, okay, this works, and then you start to. I love how Skype put that text right on the
Chat
right on
bubble.
the screen. So anybody watching the video, we don't have a local recording for Donnie, so that's fine. I got the call. We're
Okay. As I was like, it just became right into a conversation. I was like, I
we're
don't know, like, are we recording now? Like, should
this is
I
it.
wait?
Well, that is the show. That's the sweet hangs.
Okay.
Yeah, man. It's there's a time early on, I think, when, at least for me, my writing was best. I think you can almost get a little long in the tooth on it. And I feel like maybe that's the same for everything. That's why you have always been able to adapt and change. Because I don't think you guys get formulaic.
No, we definitely, like, we're always open to anything. Like, we've done so many different things. We've tried to do so many different things. We're just
but one of my
copycats. We're just
favorite things you guys did
regurgitators.
was the Wii U Remember Me. Like, that is,
Oh,
dude, it
that was so long.
But it was
2-hour
amazing.
podcast.
And I really feel you now have been doing this long enough that you can look back on, I don't know if the word is legacy. You can look back on like a chunk of time, like a big chunk of your life and a lot of other people's lives that all came together. And whether or not you walk away from this or you do this until the day you die, you can look back on this time and go, this is something like really special. And that dawned on me, and I want to throw that back to you in a second here. It dawned on me when I was looking back on episodes, maybe 10 episodes ago, which is almost 2 months, or a little more than 2 months, and I started the show with Lincoln on my lap. And I'm like, that is amazing. It's a different type of home video. And that's the world that we live in. And now you can, look back on this time and you can say, well, it just started with me and 3 guys. And then we brought on all these other people, and it changed their lives. Like, how does that ever occur to you? You were literally changing lives for people who listen, probably less so, but for people who are able to exercise that creative muscle that they never would have before. They never would have found a way. They needed somebody like you to be able to do that. Like, do you ever reflect on that? Other than right now?
So twofold. We've had questions, and I've kind of reflected on this part of that, is that, a lot of times when we stream, I stream with my kids. Like, that's why the Wii U thing is always like a big thing with me, because I like to play with my kids. And it has dawned on me, and we've gotten questions on the podcast. I think it's really neat that, like, I don't know, 40 years from now, I'm gonna be able to watch a video of me playing video games with my kids. Or 80 years from now, my daughter, who's married and got kids of her own, she might pull up YouTube and watch Dad play video games with her. Like, she on March 10th, no less, on Dad's birthday, she may, like, it's that's really neat. And I think our generation is like really the first generation to have access to quick memories like that. As for the team, I gotta say, I've never really thought about it that way. I will say that I'm happy and proud that, like, it took a lot to coax, like, Coach Mo onto the show. And no, I seriously did. I kid you not. Coach Mo was shy wouldn't be the right word, but like reserved. And, like, if you're playing a game with him online and he's in your headset, he's fine. He's at ease. But, like, putting him on video, putting him, like, on podcasts, like, asking him for real opinion, it's not really his, I wouldn't say it's not his thing. It's just like, he just wasn't used to it. Right. And so there was a while there, like, it was.
So you were coaxing
kind of
him, like, you were pushing him along and encouraging? Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. Like me, Kevin, I know Nathan, like, there was a lot of us that were like, Coach, you've got a lot to offer here, like, more than you think you do. Like, you got to open up a bit. And, like, and then to see where he started, like, you listen to, don't listen to it 'cause it's terrible, but you listen to, like, PSVG Caramelize Me, Baby, which is like episode 8.
Amazing.
It's like one of our very first episodes, probably the first episode with Mo. Audio quality's just egregious, but
recorded on tape.
But if you listen to that and then you listen to OT,
I
mean, different people, hugely different people. And there was times where he's like disappeared for a while. He's like, he very much was like, I don't know if I want to do this, and and then he comes back around. But it was always kind of like that, dude. You've got a lot to offer. Now, if you've never listened to the OT,
yeah, it is
such a special show on the PSVG podcast network. It has nothing really to do about video games at all. Like, they kind of talk about it, but it's kind of like this, like We the GamerCast, kind of. It's just a hangout show. It's just a bro out time, or they just hang out and talk about anything. And I think that show is needed and was necessary on just for us, like as a creative team, because when you're talking about this, like we're talking so much about video games, there can always be like this built up conflict, right? And we always get like the Nintendo guys and the PlayStation guys and the Xbox guys, and they're always fighting.
It's almost like somebody designed it that way.
Right? And for the most part, exactly, it's like it's fun, it's tongue in cheek. But there are times that like you do that for 4 or 5 weeks, people get burned out, they get tired of it. That show is like a great place to go, and it's like, remember, we're all friends. Like, let's just hang out. Like, it really kind of serves a purpose.
That's a beautiful thing,
internally.
man. Like, I love that it is that dual purpose type of thing. Maybe Bobby and I needed that. Maybe we were just fighting about Nintendo all the time. Maybe we needed to have a couple more sweet hangs.
It's hard to have a responsible conversation with Bobby and criticize Nintendo at the same time.
Speaking of change and metamorphosis,
I'm all about being a fanboy.
There was a time where I thought we had kind of gone over the irrational. I remember like talking to him on and off the show. I'm like, man, you're really dynamic person. Like, I think as a Nintendo guru, and even somebody with playing Nintendo as your Twitter, like, and just the way that people are, you like to put people in their boxes, and you like to think that you've got them figured out. And Bobby surprised me so often, and he's even surprising me right now with what he's doing now. And we won't get into that, but he's surprising me now. But it is good. That's why I love doing this show, and OT is just the same as you mentioned, where even though we need an outside conversation with each other, the audience needs that as well. And I've always viewed the show and shows like it where it actually makes you appreciate when those people are talking about video games even more, because you are starting to understand them as a person more than just like their hot takes on video games. It's way more well-rounded.
Exactly. And that's why I'm glad you're exactly right. Because, all of our shows are like centric now for the most part. They all have like their thing, and like all of our personalities have their thing. It becomes almost like predictable. You can predict what I'm going to like. Donnie's hot take, the direct that we had this week.
Oh, really?
Best direct we've ever had. I've been fighting about that constantly with everybody. Yeah. Right. That's predictable. But if you'd listen to me on other shows, you know that I'm not just being a fanboy, right? Like, I'm not saying it for the purpose of saying it. And you'd only know that if you heard me on the Xbox show, or if you heard me do PlayStation Live reactions, or you heard me on the OT. Like, you would only know that.
Why was it the best? And this is going to be repeating for people who listen to you.
All right.
I'm curious.
So here was the interesting thing. We watched the direct. There were a lot of things that were like, I wouldn't say spoiled, but there were a lot of things that were,
and by the way, I totally messed up the starting times, and I jumped into your guys' chat. I don't know if anybody noticed this, but I jumped in the chat and you guys were talking about what had just happened. But for somebody who thinks that it's about to start in a half an hour, I thought you were talking about what you think is going to happen.
Oh, we were spot on.
Well, I came in, I'm like, Diablo closes it. And I don't know and I quickly realized it already happened. So I went to go watch it, and I'm like, I'm such an idiot. Like, it totally didn't. And what am I predicting things after the fact? What an ass. Anyways, please continue. I need to share my idiot story.
Yeah. So the thing that I came up with is I asked before we recorded Shaq that night, I said, hey, 1 out of 10, how do you grade the show? I got a couple 8s, which is about where I would be, somewhere in there like that. Sure. And then the score doesn't really matter. The interesting thing was I got a lot of like below 6. Oh, yeah. So I'm sitting here in my mind, and I'm like, because this is just my thought, like my process of thinking. I would go, if that direct was a 6, can there ever be a 10? It's like that scale doesn't make sense to me. And one of them was Kevin, and I argue with Kevin and I, as much as like I love Kevin to death, he is my right-hand man. I am the yin to his yang. Like, we never seem to agree on anything, and I think that's why it makes us a good team, because we're always giving each other the other side of the coin on like every idea. But back to the thing. So I started going back. I went to the Nintendo's website. They have every direct. And I started going back through the ones that were like most memorable to me. like Super Nintendo Virtual Console and 3DS, Wind Waker HD, Twilight Princess HD, the Switch, the original Switch one, the E3 conferences. I couldn't find one that I would say that if you bullet pointed the releases on each one was a better direct.
This is what I love about you, Donnie. This is like, who can match that objective take? Nobody looks at it like that. Nobody goes like bullet.
So, and that's what I realized when I started actually saying this point and backing it up. The thing that I got that I have a hard time agreeing with is like Kevin and I were arguing, and Kevin goes, "But I knew all about it before I went in." So it's like he was grading the direct on the surprise factor, and I was like, "How can you do that when you are a podcast? Like you have so many podcasts where like all you do all day is have your ear to the ground." You're never going to be that surprised.
Imagine if you go to the next level where you are actually supposed to know what's going to happen ahead of time. So you've got your stories ready afterwards and everything.
Yeah, that surprise is never going to be there. It just can't be. And, you know, people are like, well, Final Fantasy VII, that everybody goes back to this. The Final Fantasy VII reveal, that place, the Gabe moment where everybody in the PlayStation crowd went nuts. And I'm like, I get that they were excited. Those games still haven't come out.
That's a hilarious point to bring up, too. Like, do we revise our greatest E3 ever at this stage, going like 3 years later? Wasn't that 2015? And The Last Guardian was
a long
divisive at best. I think I did not like it. Some people loved it, so I guess that's enough. And then Shenmue and Final Fantasy. And I'm not even a big Shenmue fan. So I guess it depends first of all who's getting excited. But then can people are we just too stubborn to change our minds? That was the best E3?
Stubborn or conditioned to like want what we used to get, you know, back before the information flow was so big, you know, like those surprises existed. I remember watching E3 and seeing stuff I never thought I'd see. But like it seems like those moments are coming few and far between, and that's because the information cycle that we live in today is just, and not only is it 24/7, it's, I mean, how many props do you give Nintendo for, like, we all knew Smash was coming, sure. But still, the fact that they showed Smash without anybody like leaking it, there's no pictures came out. IGN didn't go, Smash is being shown today. Like how many E3 presentations has Eurogamer like wrecked this year? We wake up and Eurogamer's like, here's everything you're about to see in 7 hours.
It too. Like, get out of here. Just if that's gonna show up on my feed, great. But just keep that away. Maybe I need like a list on Twitter of like people who spoil things and people who don't. And just like maybe like when there's no worries about spoilers, then I can just lift my entire list. Go. I don't know what the right answer is. There's probably makes absolutely no sense. But like I love this topic. I love evaluating announcements. This is how you know you are an F word geek when you are such a nerd when.
You should see the notes that I built.
And this is also when I knew that I would be marrying Chelsea. Like I've been writing about video games since before we got married, but I was always a little shy about like how much do I let on? Because like I don't know if this is forever. I don't know if I need to like not really. I didn't even know the possibilities of flexing this creative muscle as I've talked about. I didn't even know that I would want to do that. But even to explore that with somebody that you care about and you want to have around for a long time, that early stage is very awkward, both in a relationship and with your relationship with games and writing about games. So I was very nervous about exploring that space. And she was right there. She's like, if you want to go like write about games, I'll sit over here and play Ocarina of Time. Like that. And so it was a pretty...
That's awesome. My wife is what got me... My wife is actually exactly what got me started.
Actually, you told stories too where, and I'll let you get to that too, where it's very similar to Chelsea, where you're like, go, like she's literally like pushing you on the back, just like go into the basement and go do your thing.
Pretty much. That's exactly what happened. I used to type those long forms of Married to the Games, and I was doing college at the time and working, and I was like super stressed. And I remember I'll never forget it, but it was just this one day I was arguing. Married to the Games had left Zelda Link to the Past, Link Between Worlds. Yeah, they left Zelda Link Between Worlds off their Game of the Year list. Like I'll never forget the episode. They were like, what's 3DS's Game of the Year? Like for one, they did Game of the Year show, didn't even mention Wii U or 3DS. And then when they came back the next week, they were like, we don't even know what 3DS games came out this year. Like, is there a Game of the Year? And it's like, that's fine if you're not a Nintendo fan, but like, Link Between Worlds was legit one of the games of the year. So I remember I was writing them, and I called in. I was like, I can't believe you left it off the show. And my wife was just like, why don't you just do this? She's like, it's so obviously that you want to do it, like you're passionate. I was like, I don't know how, and I have the website, and she's like, so, she's like, you'll figure it out. You're smart. Like, go find out. Go do it. And it was her.
And I love that about you too. And this is a difference I know very much about myself. I don't want to put myself down too much here, but I am better with a team. Like if I've got like 3 or 4 people around me, like we will accomplish amazing things. But in terms of like getting something started just by myself, it's difficult. And that's why I give you so much props for PSVG. It's like, no, we gotta, like, this is the vision, and you coming up with anything from scratch, even drawing something from scratch versus looking at something and then kind of mimicking that and drawing that is a different skill set. And PSVG right from the beginning was you, and I'm happy to hear that your wife was the one kind of like pushing you to do it, and your life has changed for the better because of that.
It's been a great source of fun.
The way that you said that sounded like it wasn't at all. It's been a great source of fun.
I won't lie. There are times where, like, when you have a team of 15, 17 folks, like, ideas and, direction conflicts. So there's also a lot of, like, management that gets involved, too. But for the most part, the entire, like, journey, it's something that I needed to do. I can only really recognize that now. Because at the time, I had just graduated college.
What were you taking in college too? And I want to get into your day-to-day job as well, because I find it fascinating.
Okay.
I really do. Like,
definitely.
I think you were on Delvin Cox's show the first time that I had learned about what you do outside of PSVG. And I was like, holy crap, man, this is incredible. But I don't know what you took in college to get there. So
I'm a public administration major. Really what that means is I have a degree in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. But it's under like the government label at Mercer University.
So it was that direct of a translation from a degree to, because like for me, I have like a commerce degree, and I work at a charity. Like that's what happens with a lot of BCom degrees.
I work with folks. I work with some folks like that. So we'll get into that. But yeah, I mean, it was, I took the long road to college. Like I always wanted to go to college. Actually, I'm the only person on my side of the family that actually has a college degree. Both my actual family and my foster family.
Okay. That was going to be my question, was which side? So either. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Hang on a sec. We need to go back further. We need to rewind a little further. It's on my list of things I want to get to, Donnie. I don't know if you, and I apologize if I'm going to make you repeat yourself. Have you ever talked about this on another show? And this is a challenge.
I talked about it a little bit on that Delvin Cox episode. And here's the thing, before I'm going to get back to you, but here's the thing. When I talk about it, I feel bad because I feel like some people think like the story is interesting. And like when I did that Delvin Cox show, and when I've talked about like some things like maybe on the OT, I've gotten a tremendous feedback. People love it, and this is great, and we want to hear more about it. But I also get like some folks that are like, hey man, I want to listen to you about video games, not this. Like keep that stuff to yourself.
Yeah, well,
and I also kind of feel bad.
Then they haven't made it this far, and because they're not even subscribed or listening to this show. Because I say we talk about video games, and I'm like, that's just what the script says for the most part. That's what I said in the beginning days. Like we talk a little bit about games.
Okay, I have not really open book talked about.
Okay, so talk to me about like what is your connection to your biological family now and in the beginning? Like, is there one and then you get displaced, or what is that? How does that happen? In the beginning.
For the first 3 years of my life, my mom's a drug addict. She's a drug addict. She's abusive. She's passed away. She's always been that way. It's just what I grew up in. It's the environment I grew up in. I lived the first 2 years of my life with my grandmother, and then my mom took me from Atlanta to Ohio, where I lived in Columbus and Cleveland and Dayton. There was a point in my life that was really bad, and I always say that. All right, so before I tell you the story, I want to preface this. By no way, shape, or form do I feel like a victim. So when I tell you, I'm just telling you because you're asking. Yep. Okay, that's the only reason. When I see other people that do their stories, and then it bothers me because I'm like, I am so much
let me
more
put
than
some
my
super
upbringing.
sappy
Like,
music
none of
over
that has
this. Like as
anything
you're
to
telling
do
the
with
story,
me.
I'll put in some really sad, and at the bottom of the
Yes.
screen, I'll say like where you can donate and make a difference. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
That stuff kind
Okay.
of bothers me. But so like when I
Mm.
was in third grade, we were living in Cleveland, Brooklyn Heights,
You and your
Parma,
mom.
and
Yeah.
me and my mother. We were homeless, and for about I went to 12
Holy
schools in third
crap.
grade. Two of them twice. I actually got enrolled in one and then came back. And we lived in a pretty bad neighborhood. And when she died, I actually took I took my wife to the neighborhood and got her to see it. And she was like, "Wow!" And I took her to the shelter that we used to live in. It was so much smaller than I remember it being. When I was a little kid, it seemed huge. It's tiny. But yeah, we stayed at churches, we stayed at shelters, and like I kind of lived that life momentarily, briefly, for about 2 years.
That's an eternity
She was very
when you're
abusive.
that age, by the way. Like when you when June hits and you're like, I've got 2 months of summer. Holy crap, this is amazing. 2 years is a long time, man.
That's true. The worst experience, if anybody really like, if you just want to hear self-loathsome Donnie, the worst experience that I still remember is being picked up at the homeless shelter when I was in third grade on the bus, and the kids made fun of all of us, not just me. I was not like I'm the only one there. There was 30 of us kids. Not uncommon in a city like that to have homeless folks.
How were you doing in school?
My mom was really. I was always really actually
I'm
a
not
really good
surprised.
student. I did end up getting held back that grade for everything that's about to take place. Like, so my mom was big on drugs, really abusive, and eventually somebody in my family had alerted social services, and they came and took me. So they came. I'll never forget. They pulled me out of school one day. They took me to where we were while my mom was gone. Like, they'd planned it all out. It was like very much like a sting. Like they knew my mom's whereabouts at the time. They knew where I was. It was all planned to the hour, and I didn't even get to say goodbye. Not that like at the time. I mean, dude, you're so young. You didn't really, like, you're very resilient at that age. You just kind of roll with things. Like, I was upset, but like at the same time, I also kind of knew like, this is probably
were
better.
you wise beyond your like?
Yeah.
I've come into contact with a lot of kids who've had difficult upbringings, and they grow up 6 times faster than everybody else. Is that similar for you? Like, were you you were an older than whatever you were. You would have been 8 at the time, 7 or 8.
I remember showing my wife like what I used to do. I used to have a friend of mine whose mom worked at the Tim Hortons across the street. When I say across the street, I mean across of like an 8-lane highway, about a mile from the house. And I used to walk there every day, and she would give me a free donut, and I would come back. And I did that in third grade. And like, I took my wife there because I'm like the world's worst parent. I'm like they're fine. Go across the neighborhood. Like I used to go. Exactly. I used to do it, like, and it took her being like, that's not normal. Right. It's but yeah, so I've been told that. They moved me to Georgia because my dad's here, and I had never really met my dad. I knew of him, but I never really met him. And they moved me here. They placed me with my grandmother and grandfather, who were really old at the time. I mean, we're talking, dude, they were like almost 70, and not the best place to be trying to raise a kid. And I had a caseworker and had to go to court every quarter month or so. And eventually my caseworker was great. If you've ever met anybody in that situation, like a caseworker, what an angelic job, what a great civil service. And it can be hard. I've always there's part of me that always thought that I'd be good at it and I'd want to do it.
Because you've been there?
It's also it's so stressful. Could you imagine? They have 40, 50 kids just like me, and they're all trying to manage all of their expectations. They're trying to take the best, but they're also the bad guy, because all the kids are like, why are you taking me away from my parents? Like it's so bad. But eventually my grandparents told my caseworker they couldn't take me anymore. So, and I'm giving you like the shorter version. I got put in a friend's home here in Georgia. And that was the day where I thought a friend's home, or at least the friend's home that I was in, I look back on now, and I've done a lot of charity work for them because I love what they did for me. But at the time, it felt like you were going to jail.
So just for clarity's sake, you're not saying you went to a friend of yours' home.
No. I'm sorry. It is an orphanage.
Yeah,
called
no, I realize that, but I'm like, I think some people are going to think that like you really don't like your friends.
No. There is a barbed wire fence around the playground. There are bars on the windows. They have a lot of kids that try to run away. I mean, I understand it now, but when you're 10 and 11, you know, like really, and you eat off a tray, like
anything is better than this.
You know, it feels like it really felt like you're just, you know, locked away. And when I remember my caseworker when he took me there, I'll never forget it. He drove me to the gas station. He goes, "Get anything you want." He's like, "I understand this is gonna suck." He's like, "I know," and I'll never forget it because he treated me like an adult. You know, as much as I didn't want to hear it, but he was like, "This is gonna suck. Like, I have to take you here." And it was because they gave up guardianship of me. I had people that wanted me, like they were like, "I'll take him," but the law says they can't until guardianship is passed. Like, so like the way he explained it to me, he's like, "If you break your leg," and Lord knows I did a lot of stuff where I could. He was like, "Nobody can sign off to tell a doctor to take care of you." You know, like it's at that level of custody, you know, like that has to happen. Until then, you know, the state owns you.
So that's a good example of growing up well beyond your years, because like who the hell is even thinking about the law? Like at any level.
Nobody's exactly. But that was like the explanation he was giving me at the time. So anyway, I loaded up on like candy bars and soft drinks and everything, and he took me there, and he stayed with me all night, like until like 3 a.m. He was like, "I have to go," and like Lord knows, I mean, I'm sure if anybody out there has never met a caseworker, that is not their job description. Like we're talking about a person going completely above and beyond and going way out of his way. He probably had a family and everything, like, or I don't know, he may not have. I mean, like definitely not. He's a government employee. He could have left
easily.
And he realized, he was like, "Oh, this sucks for this kid," you know, because I had just got here. It wasn't even that long. I would have been with my grandparents.
Were you getting in shit all the time?
At this time, not much. No, at this time, probably those couple years with my mom back in Cleveland until this point. The way I always kind of explain it to folks, I was kind of like a wild just animal. I just kind of wanted. I just did whatever I wanted to do. So like, could you imagine raising a kid like that? You know, I always. It made me feel bad. Because when I think back to this, I always feel bad. I feel bad for my teachers. I feel bad for the people that tried to help me because, you know, at the time, I just
that's just it. That's why you know, like, kind of had to absolve yourself of that a little bit, if at all possible.
Yeah, I just didn't know any better. So like, if I wanted to go to the movies, like I'd hop a ride or like get a bus ticket. I'd go all the way across town. I'd sneak into the movie. If I wanted a sandwich, I'd steal stuff. You know, like I just did whatever I wanted to do. Like if I wanted to do it, if I just wanted to leave, I'd just leave. You think about that? It's like a 4th or 5th grade. Just leave. Just get up and leave.
I remember getting into like high school going like, we don't have to ask to go to the bathroom? Like that's weird.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I never had that. So you can only imagine like the conflict that I caused along the way.
And was there any sort of like constraints or anything that were eventually put on you? Because like obviously you went to college, got a great job, you got a great family. Like we know the story has a happy ending, I guess. Is not an ending, like a happy eventuality, I guess we'll say. But like what point does like something is this when you finally get into a foster home?
Clicks
Or
something turns. Yes. Yeah. So I'm at the friend's home for I think like 3 months, and I'm going to court. I'll never forget the judge, by the way. It's Judge Newsom, Henry County, and so he has like this reputation of being you don't want him like if you're there for traffic court, but the things that he said to me and the things that he made me do will stick with me forever. But eventually they wanted me to be with my dad, so they found him. He was court ordered to come. Guess what? That's a terrible way to
what was he
start
up
a
to?
relationship. We're gonna court order you to come take care of your child, or you're gonna go to jail.
That's the choice then. Well, not even a choice. Like that's the situation.
Pretty much.
Holy
Pretty
crap.
much, because the way that the judge kind of used it was he should have been paying child support all these years. So now he's on the hook for this amount of money. So if you don't come take care of your child when nobody else will, we're going to put you in jail until you pony up. Like that's how they got him there.
Wow, man.
It wasn't my dad's fault. Like he didn't really know. He didn't even know I was back in Georgia. You know,
but
he just
knew
I was
existed?
off in the world somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. He definitely did. And then but my dad also was not like the best person in the world. He's not as bad as my mom, but at the time, I'll never forget this either. It's a good story. My dad walked into court in shorts, jean shorts.
Yep.
That's a no-no, especially down here in the South. Judges you don't do that. So he was ordered by the judge then to go to the store and get a shirt and tie and pants and come back. So he comes back in like this brand new
tags are still hanging out the back,
clothes.
down the sleeve.
Yeah, exactly. And then they run his background. He had like 24 DUIs.
Yeah.
My dad was pretty much an alcoholic. And that's why my mom, never stayed with him. So the judge literally was like, we can't let you go with your dad.
Yeah.
Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, he was just like, I so badly want your dad to take care of you, but this can't happen. Like, this is not the solution.
That's good though, right? Like that. I mean, it's a tough situation, obviously. And I feel like a lot of us have our experiences with the system, and we have a lot of problems with the system, but I feel like this is an instance maybe where the system was working.
The system's working. It's taking a long time, but it's working.
But there wasn't like the solution was like, let's get him with his dad. But they didn't do so blindly. Yes. I guess that's kind of the thing that I'm actually happy to hear. Yeah, that's good.
Oh, not at all. So here's where the story turns. And actually, they just called me and sang me happy birthday, which they do every year, and I always love it. My aunt, who lived near my grandmother and grandfather at the time, took me, and she stood up in court and said, "We'll take him."
What side of the family?
It's my mother's sister, and her husband is a plumber. It's my Uncle Dan. And in so many ways, I feel like a lot of people resonate with this. In so many ways, I love my uncle so much more than I do my aunt. Like, I love them both, right? Like, it's my uncle and I just shared a connection. Yeah. He's not even family. He's not even blood family. But for some reason, and I kind of know the reasons, but anyway, they took me. They took me in. And here was what the judge said. The judge said, all right, we're going to give custody to your aunt and uncle. Dad, you're going to visit him every weekend because this child needs a role. And, he needs a father figure in his life. So every weekend. He also put a breathalyzer in my dad's car. So every time my dad tried to start the car, he had to blow non-alcoholic breath, which my dad probably hated. And that was to last for a year. It ended up being 2 years, but a year to get me and my dad off onto a good start. So I went to go stay with my aunt. Now, my aunt is the opposite of anything I ever had. Yeah. Super structured. You'd call her a Bible thumper, like around here.
Was she your mom's older sister?
Church every Wednesday, every Sunday.
Younger sister? Oh, wow. Okay.
Younger sister. Yeah. Church every Wednesday, every Sunday night, every church activity, Bible school, all that, Bible study, everything. And my uncle was, chores every day. I never forget at first, it was such a hard transition because I hated it. Like the first 3 months of my life, I hated every bit of it because it was so regimented. It was so structured. Like almost every hour of my day was planned and scheduled. I felt like I rarely ever even
when you get to do what you want to do. Exactly. Yeah, totally.
And coming from somebody that just did nothing but anything I wanted to do. The judge also ordered me to do after school activities. He ordered
so
it
like
was
sports
a part of,
or
like their custody.
Yeah.
Didn't care. If I never forget the words, Judge Newsom said, "This is the type of person that doesn't need any extra time on his hands. You will do an after school activity around the entire."
Yeah. What is it? The idle hands or the devil's tool or something like that.
Something like that. He was like, "You will do an after school activity all year long." He said, if you don't, then you're going to come back to court. And I was probably an empty threat, but at the time, I was 12 or 11. I took it completely seriously.
This guy who's 100 feet up in the sky.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this guy can put you. This is the guy that almost threw my dad in jail.
So you were respecting authority, at least at this point. Like so you recognize that there are consequences and that this guy is saying these things and you have to take, because I feel like there's often times where you're like, whatever, like you can throw the book at me and I don't care. Like some kids grow up that way too. Yeah,
you know what?
Yep.
I know a couple kids like that. You're right. Yep. I never took that approach. I think that's what made my uncle and I click so much, because I never took the, hang on a second. Jack, okay, I'm on a show, please. My kids are just coming in and out.
We can't hear them, so
rotating through.
It's just life now.
My uncle treated me in a way that, I never like just bucked authority. I would argue, like I would always like make a claim, but I would like if somebody talked to me and like told me why, I would always like, okay, I understand. Or if you were just like right, I would do that too. If you were like, you have to do your chores before you can go to the skating rink, then you wouldn't hear anything from me. I'd just work and then go. It would be if I wanted to go and you told me no, that's when I would be upset. It's like, wait a minute, I've held up my end of the bargain here. My uncle, very much like from the beginning, I remember, because it was so hard for me trying to transition into like this new lifestyle. My uncle would sit me down And I had like a real strong like love affair for like history and like social studies and stuff like that at the time. I was all about it, and so did he. So like we would stay up until like 2 a.m. and we'd talk about World War II and watch stuff on the History Channel, just garbage. We'd talk about, you know, general tactics and just stupid stuff. And there would be times where like if I got in trouble at school or something, he would sit me down, and instead of like just punishing me, grounding me, anything, he would sit me down and be like, all right, why did you do this? And I'd explain my side of the story, and then he would be like, well, here's the other side of the story. And he's like, let me explain why this is a problem. Let me explain why you can't do this. You know, like he was the first person ever to be like, you can't do this because this upsets like the laws of the classroom. And if you do this, then other people, and like he started to teach me. You know, he's really like the first person's like, I want you to be a better person. I don't want to just punish you to make you, you know, it wasn't like you're being punished, don't do it again. It was like, here's why. You know, it's like the
context and perspective, man. Holy crap. Like as soon as you're saying this, I'm thinking Lincoln's upstairs. I'm like, where is my book? I need to write this down so I can refer to this later. Like I'm not disciplined or anything now. He's not upsetting any laws of classrooms yet, but he will. And that's what a great moment for you to remember later on in life as well. Like
well, it got to the point where I hated to ever let him down.
Because you respected him.
You know, because like, he took his time. Yeah, exactly. And like my aunt, on the other hand, oh man, I love her to death, but she's like a bull in a china shop. You get in trouble, she's ready to pull out the belt. You know, like it's just like just strict corporal punishment. But he never treated me that way, and it also became a thing where once he started doing that, it didn't take long. I just stopped getting in trouble. Like literally, I was just like, okay, well I'm not gonna do this anymore.
Like it's in there,
and it was just after that.
And the thing that I think is interesting about parenting is that you're running on fumes 95% of the time, and the other 5% you're sleeping to try and get those fumes back up. The truest sense of you comes out when you're parenting, and the only other time I feel like this happens, and maybe I haven't had the life experience to know this, but I've witnessed it when my grandmother was fading, but she still had like her core, like her inner brain, her lizard brain was working when nothing else was working. She was losing her faculties, but the innermost sense of her came through, and she was so kind. She didn't know where she was or what was happening to her or anything, but she was thanking people around her and just being genuinely nice. And I was like, that's grandma right there.
That's a
dude, like,
story, that is.
I shouldn't have been there to see it. Like, I should have been my uncle or my brother or somebody else who actually like lived in the area. I just happened to be there for work because she lived in a city 3 hours from here, and something had happened. She had to go to the hospital, and then I was there to see the true sense of grandma. It was awesome. And so for your uncle, and I feel like many of us see this too in ourselves, you can't fake it. You don't have the energy to fake parenting. Like, you're hit with a situation, and you go like, you kind of just have to. You don't get to sit there and like strategize. So it's coming from somewhere deep within you. It's the life experiences that you have that you then kind of put forward on those around you. And I think that's a beautiful thing about your uncle, man. Because what were their kids' situation? Were they ever going to have kids? Did you join a family of kids?
I did. My aunt had another son, and it was funny is that he didn't treat him anything like he treated me. My cousin is a funny family joke at this point, but he was the worst. He argued all the time. He was constantly in trouble. So it was also kind of like a foil because, like they had gotten to the point with him where he would get in trouble and they would punish him and he would act out and they'd punish him again. And my uncle was like, you see what's going on here? Like, don't do this. And I was smart enough to like, and
he was older.
That sounds dumb. Yeah, he was a little bit older than me too, and I was like, I'm just not gonna do that. So I kind of just
you and me are second kids. We're in that sense. Like I had an older brother going like, well, you don't say the F word to dad because soap doesn't look like it tastes very good, like literally, or like that plastic sandal that he's got looks heavy and it looks like it hurts your butt. So don't do any of that stuff. I learned a lot from my older brother. Yeah,
very much. So after about 18 months with them, that my dad passed all of his tests, cleared everything, and finally gets awarded full custody of me. So at this point, I didn't want to leave. I'd actually kind of bought in and I guess become, I don't know, brainwashed or like retooled or reconstructed, like, like I had been reformed. I was, not the church. I didn't really credit church, but like I'm not like an atheist or anything. Like I don't really go to church anymore. So I can't even say that I'm like overly religious, but I love the utility and like the social aspect that is church. I think the community. Yeah. So like that helped me a lot. And I think it's important. So when they sent me back to my dad's house, there was like some resentment there. I'll never forget, like my dad picked me up. Like he was real happy he didn't have to pay child support anymore.
Yeah, that's the win.
Like that was like the thing. Yeah. And so like when he got back, obviously, the people are who they are. My dad started drinking again. And this time I don't know, late middle school, early high school, late middle school, like 8th grade.
It's a dangerous time
playing
to be
football.
Around that, though, and like it's always a dangerous time, but like very influential. Yeah.
You're volatile at this point when you're especially as a male. It's a volatile time. Not only are you like, preteen, teenager, hormones going nuts, but like now you're like almost physically capable of doing something about it. And that's ultimately what happened. Yeah. Me and my dad didn't click. It just didn't work. He thought parenting was like, there's food in the fridge. I've told the story before. Like he bought me a PlayStation on Christmas one year, and I loved it. I was so excited, but no tree, no decorations, like no games, like no, not even wrapped. It literally was a PlayStation just on the table. He's like, Merry Christmas. So like, you feel, that doesn't sound all that bad compared to like my mom, and it wasn't. I definitely had worse, but coming from my aunt and uncle straight off the bat, it just didn't feel like family. There was no, it was like roommates. It's like, it was like we're cohabitating. It's like, you're here because
further
you have
aging
to be
you
here.
Beyond your years.
So there's like all this resentment building up, not only just to him, but with me. Like he's yelling at me about all the things that he would like me to do. I'm yelling at him like, where have you been? Like, what gives you the right? You just showed up. Like, you don't even want me here. It was just bad. So I'll never forget one night I came home from football practice, or not even football practice, football game. And I had a friend's mom drive me home, and he was just liquored up. And I don't know, I don't even remember exactly, but he thought I was somewhere else, even though I was completely in pads and sweating. And he was drunk, and he threw a bottle at me, and we got into a fight. And I had tackled him like through the screen door window onto the porch. We were okay, but the police came. The police were called. We were separated, like filed. And anytime something like that went up with my name, with everything that happened, like alarms go off. Like the system starts to work again. So the system picks up on it, and they go, wait a second. Why is this happening to this kid? So all of a sudden, who shows up?
Same person?
Caseworker. And then, yeah. He was still being caseworker because like I was assigned to him until he no longer was doing it.
What can describe that relief?
Else. Or if he got promoted,
you must have just been like, holy crap, thank you for familiar face. Oh, really?
You would think that when you say that. When you say that, it makes me feel bad
I can't imagine the situation,
time,
man. Like not.
At the time, it was almost like expected. His name was Steve, and I was like, "Hey, Steve,
that makes
like, what's
sense.
going?" Like, yeah. But you're right. I should have, because if anybody else had come along, like there would have been all this backstory. I had to fill them in and all that.
I guess to you, like
anyway,
it was only going to be him. Like it's not like this was a coincidence. It was that's the way. Yeah.
I didn't think anybody else. But you're right. Very lucky, because a lot of kids have 12 caseworkers, so you're very lucky. And anyway, I never forget we go back to court, same judge, all the way back where I was, because I was still as in the program, I guess, if you will. And so my dad pleaded to the judge to send me to a farm for like misfit kids. I'll never forget that. He had read on the internet, or somebody had told him that there was like a farm for like kids that go to jail to like work out their issues. And the judge looked at him like he was such
I can
an
only
idiot.
imagine like
like,
the difference in approaches from the judge who's got like the system and like this guy who's like, how about this? I'm like, doesn't really work like that.
Yeah. And the judge was like, this kid is acting this way because he doesn't have another option. That's how he wasn't like absolving me. I want to be clear. Like he didn't absolve me for what I did. He was very much like, you should have never done that. But he was also like, your dad was licked up and he tried to hit you, and he was like, knowing where I came from, he was like, this kid's not going to let this happen. He's like, he has to do something. Like it's just a little understanding I think I got, instead of just like a kid that was a bad kid and hit somebody. So anyway, I go back to the friend's home, and at this point I'm a teenager. my aunt and uncle at the time were having some issues at home. So anyway, I ended up with a foster family. So I was like, and it was actually friends of the family. So I had known about them. It was they had known me from my time with my grandmother and grandparents. I used to actually babysit their kids, and they went and jumped through all the hoops that it took to become like a foster family. Even they didn't take in like a bunch of fosters. It's just me. But they did it because they were like, he's a good kid. If somebody would just get out of his way a little bit and like steer him, if somebody would focus his attention in the right path. So I stayed with them. I don't know. I'm really bad with times and ages. Barely remember my own kids' ages. But I'm probably like 14 or 15. I'm not even that far away. So the idea was very much like, all right, we'll let him go stay with his friends. And then he'll do that 18. Until he becomes, 18 and does his own thing. So, and that's really kind of the story. I was still like really close to my aunt and uncle, but just at the time, especially because like the child support thing wasn't there, they just couldn't do it. But I still visited them often. And it's one of the, they're still here. They called me today on my birthday. Every year on my birthday, they call me and they sing me happy birthday. They're on the other side of town, but we still visit them all. My uncle and I are still very, very, very close. I call them anytime I need like dad help. As my dad has actually passed away too. And actually, I want to cap the story because it does have somewhat of a happy ending. So I met my wife in high school, ninth grade, and we dated. I'd say off and on, but we pretty much dated all through high school, and we got pregnant.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
We graduated. Yeah, we graduated together. And so I didn't go to college, I'm trying to pull the story full circle. I didn't go to college like most people did. I went to work. And so like we did that whole thing for a couple of years, and my dad really kind of turned his life around when my daughter was born in so many ways. Like he stopped drinking for the most part. He was very engaged. Wow. He was there the day she was born. If I ever needed somebody to like watch her, he was there. I'll never forget, like there were at one point in my life I was working like 15-hour night shifts. So like he'd come in the morning and be with my daughter, and he'd walk the dogs and stuff like that. Like it took a while. It took about a year. Also, like he went through some things too. He lost his job. He lost his house. He lost his cars. He wasn't never like a wealthy person, but like he was comfortable for a long time, and he lost all of it. So there was a point in my life where like he was living with like an aunt and stuff like that, like his sister. So it took a while. I won't say that. I didn't just like welcome him back with open arms, but you could tell the change. He was just generally like a much. I'll never forget the day that we went to go let him know that he was going to have a grandchild. He took my wife to Walmart and like bought her everything. He was like, "What do you need?" And I never forget. She was like, "Oh, this stroller will do." He's like, "Yeah, but that one's bigger." Yeah. Like he wanted the best. It was like honestly, it was like a flip.
That sounds like you
a
though.
Switch flipped. It's like just.
That sounds like you taking your kids to the store and like you saying like whatever you need, you will get, and they pick out one. You're like, "No, that's not good enough. You need to get the better one." That sounds exactly like you, man. That is,
I very much, my kids are spoiled, and they're even a little bratty at times, and I try to remind them, and there's a part of me that wants to rough them out of it, to give them some of those, I guess, values that I hold dear, but they have everything I never had, and it makes me so happy to know that they do. Like, I get so much, it's like, there's a part of me that feels bad, and you're like, man, you're raising some spoiled kids, and it's like, but I would have given anything to be one of those spoiled kids. This is like, there's good and bad.
Well, and the funny thing is, no matter on what level of spoiled you are, from not at all to completely over the top, you'd always want more. Like, no matter what. That's just part of being a kid, man. And
true.
And you've probably, like, you experiencing your childhood, but almost through, like, the eyes of an adult. Lock those memories into your mind so that now that you are a parent, like, I think a lot of people forget what it's like to be a kid, I think is sort of the point. And whether or not it's things that you had or that were taken from you, you kind of leverage those experiences into being a parent now. And that's why I wanted to get into that story, because I wanted people to sort of think and reflect on that as they are growing up. Some people, we have some younger listeners, we have some parents now as well. In terms of remembering what it's like to be a kid is, to me, so important. Like how to talk to kids, how to rationalize with them, how to remember like what excites them and what pisses them off, and how they react to certain things that like you think in your grown-up mind this totally makes sense, but in the kid's mind, like, what the hell are you talking about?
No idea. Yeah. I recreate so many of those moments with my kids. I kept them out of school when like systems launch and
Yeah,
Star
man.
Wars opening nights and all that. Like, I want them to remember that moment with me. Like, it's important to me. Like, I'm
Yeah.
almost like about the memory, you know. Like one year they wanted to go camping, and like we went and bought all the camping stuff, and we
Yep.
camped out in the front yard, and like we ordered pizza, and we played like
I
flashlight tag,
love
and we
it.
stayed up all night long, and it's like I
Dude, we
want
did the
them,
same thing at my
you know,
parents' house when
it's
I was a kid.
important.
It was just backyard. We had
Great.
tents in the backyard with
Yeah,
salt and
that's all
vinegar
it
chips.
takes.
I'll never forget. I don't know what it was. I had too
That's all it
many.
takes.
I had like a whole bag, and it just like it burnt my mouth. Like, you know, that salt and vinegar just like it just burned the skin on my face, but it was amazing. It was, and you didn't like you could have gone inside to a bed,
Yeah.
but why would you ever do that? I got this super uncomfortable air mattress, or maybe I don't even have
Exactly.
that.
Even just
I
just
love
the
it.
ground. Yeah, exactly. So I kind of everything I try to do, it's like all
Yeah.
stage surprise stuff. You know, like I'm all about the spectacle
What's
with the
happening
kids.
today on today, Mario Day, your birthday? What's the plan for you?
Oh, my birthday here at National Mario Day is that we're gonna beat Mario U. We already got that started this morning, so they're up there
Okay.
paving their way through that now. And then my wife's taking me to see The Strangers. I have a weird affliction for horror movies, and there's a new Strangers movie, so I'm super excited. I'm gonna do a little golfing. I played a lot of golf in high school and college or early
You got a
college.
day,
and,
man.
yeah, so
Oh, well,
I'm
thank you for
excited.
making
It's
time
good,
for
good
this.
stuff. We go out to dinner.
This is taking you away from
Oh
much
no,
funner.
no! This is a part of the day. This
Get
is
the
a part of the
podcast.
day.
That's so
Yeah,
funny.
this is great. Anyway, yeah. So I emancipated myself my senior year. I did all that. I started working at a government job. I was working at Walmart, and then I had a government job that needed entry level help, and it was night shifts, and it was overtime. It was a lot of hours, and I applied for it. They didn't have a lot of people that apply. They had a lot of people that quit. It was like this perfect storm of coincidence, and they were like, "All right, I guess we'll give it to the
Yep.
kid that works in Walmart." And actually, I turned out to be good at it. It was like an emergencies, kind of like a dispatcher, like a communications job, but not for like police, but for like DNR and agriculture and state. And like you were the warning point. So like if a tornado happened, like you make all the calls, let everybody know. So I was actually good at it, and I was really good under pressure. And I kind of turned that job into just other jobs. I've been kind of working my way up the government ladder ever since, and that's how I got into emergency management. And I didn't go to college until recently, actually, when I found Married to the Games.
Oh, wow.
When I was going to college. Yeah, so I had been working for 4, 5, 6 years until I started college, restarted college. Like after my daughter was born, I was like, my boss. I remember at the time my boss had got hired. I just started working for the city, and he was like, "Look, he's like, you're really good at what you do. He's like, you've gone as far as you can go. He's like, I want to give you more money and I want to give you a promotion." He's like, "But I can't. You don't have the qualifications. I need you to go to school." And that was like, all right, then I guess I got to go to school. And the thing that I always tell everybody is I never would have taken school so seriously if I'd gone.
Yeah, you
when
had like a
everybody else
clear
went.
like this is why you go to school. Like it's building experience and reason.
Absolutely. I had a carrot on the end of the stick. I had working all the hours and all the nights. And I was like, so when I was actually, I'm very proud of this. I don't want to sound too cocky, but I was Mercer's Outstanding
That's
Student of the
amazing.
Year in my graduating class. And I was
should
really
be.
proud to get that award because I worked so hard. And then, like all those nights, Married to the Games, were like in my earphones, like that forum, that whole time that we were all talking,
cow.
that was that time. I was working all day, weekends, any events that happened. And I was going to night classes, going to classes at 4 different campuses. Like I was doing all of it all at the same time, family, moving. It was all happening in like this 3.5 year period. And to get that award and to be done with it and to get, that's probably like, yeah, that was a really special time. Like my aunt and uncle came, they were there. They were the only family. You asked earlier, like my link to my biological family. They're it. That's it. It's just them and my in-laws. Or my in-laws. That's basically it. I don't really talk to anyone. Both my mom and dad have passed away, and I was never really close.
I'm
to
blown
the other
away
family.
because I can't imagine, like, I'm not even in even remotely the same situation at all. I can't imagine going to school right now. There's just no way. There's no way. And like not even just to like get it done. And I love like you've got your degree over your right shoulder. I'm not sure if we're flipped or whatever. And I love that that's there. It's something that it's something that people who've been to college and they finish. There's this weird thing where you're almost made to feel like it's not special. Like I don't know what that is. Some people won't.
It's like it's
Yeah, I
expected.
guess so.
You know,
Like
it's like
everybody goes to college,
you're
but like you
expected to
busted
go.
your
Yeah,
ass. Like,
I really did. I'll never hit my. I met a teacher in 7th grade. That was about the same time that I got put with my aunt and uncle. I actually met him at that school. He and I had gotten really close. His name is Mr. Eisenberg. He's now a
Mr.
principal.
Heisenberg?
And he kind of
I'm just
Mr.
kidding. I heard
Eisenberg,
you
and
right.
he knew everything.
Heisenberg
Oh,
was
I didn't
from
get the joke.
Breaking Bad. It's not worth it.
My
That was
bad.
not
My
worth
bad.
it, Danny.
Okay.
Redacted.
So he came to my graduation in college, and he had kind of known. Actually, so to give you the short story, this is a happy story. He kind of knew what I was going through at the time. He was also my history teacher, so I remember I told you I had that passion for that. At the time, I always wanted to be a teacher, so we kind of stayed in touch. He paid for my limousine and prom because I didn't have the money.
Amazing.
So like
Holy cow.
that's how close we were. He was like, "I'd love to send you to prom." You know, he's like kind of like a mentor. He came to watch me graduate at Mercer, and I was. Yeah, I mean, super, super proud. My aunt and uncle came, my family came, my kids came, my in-laws came. I mean, like, yeah.
Oh man, me too. Like,
I'm almost like
well,
tearing
and
up,
it's
like
funny,
trying to.
just like within the context of the story, somebody just being there watching means
Yeah,
the
yeah,
world.
exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
it's the parent who's
can't
like
tell you
cheering their
how
kid
much.
on at football games or whatever. It's like just being there is like, what do you have 1,000 different things you could be doing, and you're here, and that. Yeah, I love that.
I got to send him my announcement via email. We hadn't talked in a couple of years, and I even told him, I was like, "Hey, I just want to let you know. I know you have a family. I know you're a principal. I know you've got things to do." I was like, "But I want to let you know. You know, you're very." Sean.
We did it, Donnie.
I was like, I was like, you were a very important part of me getting to college, and you know, I just wanted you to know. And he was like, "I'm not missing this for the world." So,
dude, I love it.
Yeah, it was. That story aside, the podcasting afterwards fit like a gaping hole, because at that time, I'll never forget. After I graduated, there was like a year there where I was like, "What do I do now?" And you think about it. Up until that point, like I was always college. I mean, middle school, high school.
You'd learn to
right?
maximize
right
every
into
moment
parenthood,
of every day.
right into work.
Yeah.
You know, like I was always on the go, and then like I graduated college, and now I've got this 9 to 5, somewhat, you know, mostly
Got all the time in the world.
And I mean, I've got a family, and that's enough for people. But you're exactly right. Like I felt like I had just hours and hours to give. I was like, wow, this is what it feels like to just like breathe. And then after a while, I was like, I got to do something. And I didn't know what. Like, I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I didn't have any hobbies. I barely had any friends. I got to admit that. Like, I didn't keep like large groups of people ever. And I have like one friend. He's been like my friend.
You also
forever.
skipped a really
I'll never
shitty
forget when
part of growing up, which is when that expectation of hanging out with the high school friends, and then like people start to meet their girlfriends and they start to get married and stuff, and then there's that awful like tear away where you're like, I'm sorry, I kind of have to like look after my family. Like,
when I got married, like my uncle and like a neighbor were like my best man and stuff. Like it was weird. It was like, I love you, man, because I didn't keep like. I've always been like I've got like 2 like really great friends, awesome. And like these are my friends. I actually have more friends now, like even virtually digitally, than I think I ever did like growing up. You know, a part of that was probably I was always on the move. I was constantly on the go. I was always moving around. I didn't have time for like long
12 schools in one school year. Yeah,
I went to 8 different high schools.
Oh my gosh!
Like I was always on the move. I was always on the go. So like it just never really, and it doesn't bother me. It just never clicked. You know, I didn't have that. My wife lived in the same neighborhood entire life. She went to school with the same people for 12 years. You know, it's like
very different.
Nothing like that. You know, the opposite of that. So I'll never forget when I started podcasting. I had a friend of mine. He was like in a band and stuff, and you know, I kind of told him like, you know, I'm pretty impulsive. You know, so I tried to like jump into different things, and I was working out a lot for a while, and tried doing like MMA classes for a while. I was always just trying to jump into something. I had like this outlet that needed to happen. I'll never forget when I started podcasting. Maybe about my 5th episode, my best friend said, "Dude, I think you found it."
I love you had that feedback.
He was like, "I think you've got your thing now." He's like, "This is great."
I love that, man. Well, I always like to, because I really appreciate your time here on your birthday on international. Well, is it national? I don't know. Northern Hemisphere.
It's National Mario Day. Or Mario Day. Yeah.
What's maybe even looping it back to Nintendo Direct? 2018, what's it got in store for you in terms of video games? What do you got your eye on, Donnie? Yeah, right.
Everything. Devin makes fun of me because he the fear of missing out, the
Oh
FOMO.
my
The
God,
FOMO
no
is like
kidding.
real with me. Like I so badly want to. I want to talk about everything. So to do that, I got to buy everything. I've already gotten most of the Nintendo games pre-ordered, and but I actually this year my goal was to not try that so much, not necessarily just like don't buy games so much, but like last year. I beat more games last year than I've ever beat in my life, and I just felt worn out by it. I can't tell you the amount of games I probably beat 30, 40 games. Like Kevin and I were like tallying them up. Like I really, really crushed some games last year, and like there were some games that I would have played more of, like Persona or something. Like if I didn't, or Hot Shots Golf or things like that. So like this year, I was like, man, I'm just gonna play games until I'm done, and then I'm just gonna give up on it if I want to, and not feel so bad.
The back and forth, because I think that was 2015 for me. I'm like, I'm playing. I feel like 2015 or 2014. I could actually go back and check because I wrote about it. I started one of those years by playing all 3 Dragon Age games, and I'm like, that's it. I started Inquisition. It would have been 2014 because no, 2015 because it came out in 2014. So I was in January, and I started the game, and I'm like, I think I need to know what happens. I think I need to know more about this Dragon Age universe. So I went back and I got Origins, and then I played 2, and then right into Inquisition. It was like the first quarter of the year, and doing all the rest of the year followed the same. So I'm just like, I'm plowing through games. This is everything anything I ever wanted to do with my life and with video games. And by the end, I'm like, why aren't I satisfied? I played so many games and to completion. Why am I not satisfied? And I've gone back and forth since then of playing everything and playing just a couple of games. And it's the everlasting struggle, Donnie, of video game playing. We'll just never really be happy, and that's why we're all just represented by angry people on the internet.
Yeah, everybody's just cynical and upset.
That's the explanation.
Exactly right. Like, Kevin is that way. Yeah, I say Kevin was like, I can't be hyped about this stuff. I'm like, then you'll never will be. You're just like lost forever. I actually think I think this year I'm gonna wait until Black Friday to buy a lot of games.
I'm the same way.
And then,
but it also doesn't help. I'm gonna give you a warning.
I'm gonna play Red Dead Redemption.
It's a great idea, and you'll save a ton of money, but you also end up with games that like, oh, hang on a second, let me see the games right here that still in the wrapper. Final Fantasy 15. That thing is $20. Yeah, exactly.
One day, Sean.
When I've got an extra 70 hours. The Evil Within, I've played 10 minutes. So these were all games that I got on like Black Friday. And
well, I'm gonna do all my Nintendo stuff.
I love it.
That's real. But the other games, like the third-party stuff, and I think I'm gonna wait till Black Friday because we were talking about this in Discord, because Red Dead Redemption's coming. And I'm going to kind of just clear the decks and just play some RDR for a while. I'm just going to get everything out of the way and just sit down with that game and just spend time with Rockstar.
Well, you know what? You have a birthday to get to. I think I might go have some eggs upstairs. I might have some. It's still early here. I'm going to have some breakfast. Why don't we close things off? This was an absolutely fascinating chat.
I feel like it's so bad because I talked so much about just
That's
like
all I
my
wanted.
upbringing.
Well, I could want for more, but we'll have to have you back on, and we're gonna have you on if we ran Nintendo as well. So we're gonna be geeking out about video games very soon. So at this point,
very excited.
I don't know if people don't follow you, they absolutely must, because they got to hear what a guy like this has to say about video games. Where can they find that out?
A guy that'll sit there and line up bullet point by bullet point everything.
Like, I feel like that is a challenge to anybody to go, like, how do you argue that? And there probably is a way, but I wasn't prepared for that.
There probably is. Nobody preps harder than I do. You can follow me on Twitter at Playing Nintendo and follow all of our activities everywhere that we do over there at PSVG.
Thank you so much. This was truly fascinating. I usually try to cap it an hour. I'm like, there's no way we're gonna get through this. This is incredible. All it means is I got less to say at the start and close of the show, so that's great. We're just gonna be like, and here's Donnie. All right, this is it. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Sean.
Isn't that amazing? If you're watching the video, you saw me go from this glassless wreck of a man to talking to Donnie, and I'm actually No, not looking too bad. I was feeling so much better yesterday. Now it's this, and now we're back to this. Thank you guys for being here, and if even I'll take a sympathy thumbs up if you guys are on the video. I'll take it. I feel like garbage, but we can't miss a week. Can't miss a meek either. Whatever a meek is. Thank you to Donnie at Playing Nintendo. Ain't no G's in Playing Nintendo. I hope that catches on, Donnie. I thought of that on the second. And I think that's pretty great in my weird state of mind right now. How epic was that music at the start? I'm like, here's Donnie Reece, and it's like, bah, 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 bah. Now I got this music going on with the music behind. It's good stuff, guys. This is what you come to We the GamerCast for. I think. I actually don't know. Super Mario World, The Moon of Bowser on ocremix.org. Quick shout out to the guys at Fluxapose, because right here on We the Nerdy, youtube.com/We the Nerdy, the guys from Fluxapose, Lucas, Rose, and Jason Lacey are going to be on If We Ran Nintendo. Some amazing topics. I would tell you what the topics are, but they've changed they've changed 6 times in the last 24 hours, so I don't know. I don't know where we're going to land, but it'll be a great time. And I hope you guys are enjoying that new format of If We Ran Nintendo. I'm having a blast. It's cool that I can do more stuff with more people. Like, this was really the only time I could interact with so many of you, and now we've got guest shows up the wazoo. Whatever a wazoo is, and however you get them up there. Thank you for subscribing to the YouTube channel and iTunes and Google Play, and telling all of your friends and your grandmother. I appreciate it. Your grandmother might like this show. It's not always about video games. It's about family and the things that bind us. It's so good. Remember, I was also on the PSVG's Xbox Empire. State of the Xbox Empire. As soon as I see PSVG, I think PlayStation video games. I don't know why that is. It's because they're the same letters. It's about as simple as that. Follow me on Twitter at Sean Capri. Follow the show at We the GamerCast. The website is We the Nerdy. Your follows help, by the way. It definitely helps, because people, if we were looking for content or games or access, they look at that. They definitely do. So thank you guys for that. Please consider supporting the show, and also Mr. Badbit himself, Joseph, and the Canadian gamer Mark Caravan over at patreon.com/makeusbetter. Thank you to our artists, Gary Gray and Adam Leonard. I have a couple ideas going to Adam Leonard, and Adam, I haven't forgotten about that, so thank you for that. Our video designer, Antonio Guillen, and this is all part of the Day Space Network of podcasts. Otherwise, this is episode 134 of We the GamerCast, now in your ears and your eyeballs. I'll be back next week. I hope you're there too. Now it's time for Jason! Jason!
Jason! Jason! Jason! Jason! Sean! 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 Sean, where are you? Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Jason! 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 Jason!